Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you courtesy of Spectrum Television, returning on your screens and another fine, fascinating morning to look at exciting stories emanating from the world of sports. We'll be looking at a whole lot this particular morning, ranging from different sports, the world of athletes to the basketball scene. We'll also look at the world of tennis as well as the exciting world of football. Well, the last 16 tie of the UEFA Champions League takes center stage today with matches across different centers scheduled to go down later today. We'll extensively look at all of these fixtures and how we're actually expecting this match to play out much later today. I am Mutabe David and I'm super delighted to look at all of these stories with you. But before we look at stories extensively, let's first of all bring you up to speed with big development making rounds in the exciting world of sports. Welcome once again to the show. Nigeria's table tennis star Aruna will return to action at the WTT Chongqing on Tuesday today when he takes on France's Felix Lebrun in the men's round of 32. Currently ranked world number 48, Aruna will be featuring in his third WTT tournament of the season as he searches for his first win of the year. He lost his two previous matches at the WTT Star Contender Doha at the Singapore's match in February. Tuesday's meeting with the 19-year-old Lebrun will be the third encounter between the two players. Aruna has one win from their previous meetings. His last victory over the Frenchman was a hard-fought 3-2 win at the WTT Contender Durban in South Africa in January 2023. They met twice in 2024 at the WTT Star Contender Doha and the WTT champions Chongqing, where the teenager recorded a 3-love and 3-2 victories respectively. Individually, Aruna's form heading into the clash is concerning as the 37-year-old is winless in his last 5 matches on the WTT circuit. Lebrun, on the other hand, has lost just one of his last 5 matches, suffering a 4-1 defeat to world number 1 Wang Chongqing at a Singapore smash earlier this month. To the world of tennis now, where Carlos Alcaraz turned a sticky situation into a runaway victory with a scintillating close to his evening showdown with Arthur Rindanek on Monday at the PNB Paribas Open. Trailing the big serving Frenchman by a set and an early break, Alcaraz turned the match on his head for a comfortable 6-7, 6-3, 6-2 victory in Indian Wells, extending his perfect start to the 2026 season to 14 wins and no losses. Alcaraz nearly stole a tight opening set, but mishit a forehand on set point at 6-5 after clawing back from 2-5. Rindanek took full advantage and took the tiebreak, then pressed home his advantage with an opening break in the second set. But after serving both break points against him in the opening set with fearless tennis, Rindanek could not break in the second 2. Alcaraz broke on 4 of 10 break chances across sets 2 and 3 and overwhelmed his opponent after finding his groove on the stadium court. Alcaraz will next bring a 5-1 ATP head-to-head record into his last 16 meeting with Casper Ruud. The 13th-seeded Norwegian also came from behind to advance on Monday, beating 24th seed Valentin Vacherot 3-6, 6-3, 6-4. Now to the WTA scene, where Britain's Sonny Cartel showed her fighter spirit as she battled back to stun former Australian Open champion Madison Keys in the 3rd round at Indian Wells. American Keys, who won her first major at Melbourne Park in 2025, dominated the first set, but Carter rallied to complete a 2-6, 6-2, 6-3 turnaround in just under 2 hours. The British number 2 revealed she was still struggling with a back injury that had forced her to call a medical timeout during her second-round match against Emma Navarro on Sunday, when she saved the match point en route to victory. Keitel's run to the 4th round at Indian Wells last year, her debut at WTA 1000 tournament, helped kickstart a breakthrough season for the 24-year-old, who reached a career-high ranking of 44 in 2025. With victory over 15th seed Keys, Keitel, now ranked 54th, becomes the first British woman to reach the 4th round at a California-based tournament twice. To the world of basketball, where reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had such a masterpiece of a performance just on Monday night that tying one of the Wilt Chamberlain's records was a footnote. Gilgeous-Alexander punctuated his 126th consecutive game of scoring at least 20 points, matching Chamberlain's record streak set from 1961 to 1963 by switching a winning step-back three-pointer with 33 seconds remaining to lift the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder to a 129 win to 126 over their Western Conference rival Denver Nuggets. Gilgeous-Alexander finished with 35 points and a career-high 15 assists without committing a turnover, joining another all-time NBA great and an exclusive club. LeBron James is the only other player to record at least 35 points and 15 assists with no turnovers since turnovers became an official statistic in 1977 to 1978, accomplishing the feat while leading the Cleveland Cavaliers to a win over the Toronto Raptors on March 21, 2018. Now to the world of football, where West Ham United put their relegation worries to one side to reach the quarterfinals of the FA Cup for the first time in 10 years by defeating London rivals Brentford 5-3 on penalties. Dango Ouattara was guilty of a terrible miss while attempting a panenka before Konstantinos Mavropanos struck the winning kick to book the Hammers a last-8 home tie with Leeds United. In a dramatic game, Jarrod Bowen's 19th minute close-range finish after Brentford failed to deal properly with a corner put the Hammers ahead before Igor Thiago equalized 8 minutes later with his 20th goal of the season. Captain Bowen restored West Ham's lead by sending Joachim Kelleher the wrong way from the penalty spot in the 34th minute, following Michael Coyote's foul on Adama Traore. It looked like the Hammers were closing in on victory until informed Brazilian forward Thiago forced extra time from the spot after Crescenzo Somerville's 80th minute foul on Coyote. There were no further goals in extra time, with Kelleher producing an outstanding one-handed save to keep out substitute Callum Wilson. But West Ham, coupled with Ouattara's poor attempt, held their nerve during the sport kicks to go through. But that's all we have at this time. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation on this show. Do stay with us.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting moment. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Bladen Kim. And one of the exciting things about sport this morning, a little bit of conversation continuing from yesterday. We'll talk about one key feature. It would still be about women in sports. I promised yesterday a guest would join the conversation. Well, it's going to be a stark conversation today. Part of it would center around Aruna Quadri and table tennis and what's happening to him at world number 6 at WTT Chongqing. We're talking about also the ups and downs that's come with the career of Aruna Quadri. What next for him? Even further, Indian Wells taking center stage. Carlos Alcaraz kept dominating in the world of tennis. 14-0 it is for him now, and no stopping by. Well, in the world of football, part of the conversation was centered around key talking point in the world of football. We're looking at NFF as a set March date for Federation Cup, a kickoff, 1 million naira sanction for March, a no-show. You know what NFF are saying, come on, you have to be part of it, no matter what it takes also. The Champions League would be the big one to talk about today. Well, Galatasaray hosting Liverpool, it will be that conversation. Real Madrid also to face Manchester City at the Santiago Bernabeu. And we'll talk about bulk of a conversation as Barcelona take on Newcastle United. Well, I'm not alone. The guy seated with me on the table of greatness and ready for this one. At the far corner, Uchebe David, and close by to me, Mfonitina. Uchebe David, good morning. Good to see you today.
A delight to be back. The day we've all been waiting for, especially the UEFA Champions League night of action. Consequential battles. I can't say which is my pick of the night, but I think there are lots of interesting games scheduled to go down today.
And lots of interesting games to go down to them. Good morning. I don't know what trickle you fancy. Good morning.
It was a good morning. It was a blowback between Xavi, the man Laporta, and George Font yesterday for the Barcelona presidency role. You know, we're hearing back and forth. This one accusing the other of some things.
For not letting Lionel Messi
come back and all of that. It was very exciting. I don't like Barcelona as a club, so it was exciting seeing them fight among each other. So I'm excited to be back.
How are you going to feel? There are many things and many people in sports you don't like. Every now and then, you don't like Barcelona. I'm going to keep a record of people you don't like. You don't like Lamine. You don't like Barcelona.
I don't like Messi as well. You should know where it's coming from now.
Well, sadly you like Manchester United. One thing we know you like anyway. Well, let's quickly talk about a conversation straight up. I want to ask you the sporting activities from this angle. It has to do with the world of cricket, as we hear that India cricket team had to pocket $14 million for T20 a World Cup win. I'm going to start with you. Yeah. It goes on. We talk about a huge amount of money, but winning the T20 World Cup, that's something wonderful. And many begin to think when Nigeria will get opportunity to go to this level and win it, it could be a distance anyway, but India winning it and big money to be spent around.
Well, it shows you why the likes of we at Pat are very serious when it comes to developing cricket in the country. I think I've said it time and time again, cricket has to be the most hardworking federation in Nigeria at the moment for the last 2 years. We've talked about cricket, doing this, doing that, the federation and all of that. Now you can see why they're doing so. $14 million. That's a lot of money. You know, I would look at it. Imagine Nigeria gets to be in a position that they could win this particular World Cup. That would be a lot of money and it would help the players as well. So it's quite exciting to see India. India are the powerhouses when it comes to cricket in the world. World number one when it comes to cricket. Even the likes of South Africa can match them. So when you look at it that way, world-deserving champions and good money to come by as well.
Well, many top countries when it has to do with cricket and we're Indian in that direction. England also being part of it. South Africa also.
Australia as well.
Yeah, Australia. What's it called them now?
Fiji.
Fiji maybe in rugby a lot, but that's how they call them now. The area of Jamaica.
Sri Lanka?
No, not just them. No, it's a collection. I've forgotten how to call them. But fantastic. India won a T20 a World Cup in that direction for a record third time. And the country's cricket board said on Tuesday that pocketing $14 million after lifting the tournament, the co-host and pre-tournament favorite was swept aside. They swept aside New Zealand by 96 runs in Sunday's final in Ahmedabad in that direction. So congratulations to them and something to really talk about. Well, up next we'll get to talk about Aruna Quadri facing world number 6. While we're looking at the traction that comes with it at the WTT Chongqing game. We'll try to stick to you in this one now. What gets to happen at the table tennis? Up next we'll get to talk about conversation with our guests that we're talking about the women's game. But first, just a bite on Aruna Quadri and the performance so far.
I think it's about the struggles of Aruna this particular year. in WTT competitions. No win so far for him this year in the two competitions he's actually played, and that's quite worrisome for Aruna Quadri's caliber. We're talking about a man who's got experience over the years and not winning games at the moment. But I could also understand most times you're also meant to have some difficult start to the year still early. There are also several WTT competitions to go before the end of this year. Well, my worry would be about the very fact that over time he's also been facing younger opponents. I mean, his opponent in today's game is a youngster, 19 years of age. So there's always going to be that, of course, line between a youngster and a man who's got experience. And I think the youngster is also coming in with lots of energy to try and take Aruna Quadri to the cleaners. But I'm just hopeful he gets his first win of the year.
Well, to David being hopeful, Aruna Quadri gets his first win of the year. We're crossing our fingers and hoping that things get to happen the way it ought to be. Well, in line with the International Women's Day and the perspective that comes with it, yesterday we talked about the growth of women in sport. We analysed different angles, big superstars, especially from a Nigerian point of view, and that's given perspective to the growth of women in sports. We also talk about football in that regard. And well, yesterday was Mfonitina and David talking about how can men talk about women in sport. So it's time for a woman to do the talking, and while we listen, and definitely, so our guest joins a conversation this morning to give perspective to all of these and the drive time that comes with this particular conversation, where my guest, Ikyo Biobelemoye Anabella, a sports journalist and social media manager at Herald Sports, joins the conversation this morning. Good morning, Ikyo.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to our listeners. It's a pleasure to be here talking about women's sport.
All right, so good to have you join Spectrum TV this morning. I hope I didn't sabotage your name along one of that, but let's keep it short. EQ, a fantastic personality. I remember many years ago, you joined us on Planet FM Radio, still talking about women. Let's bring the conversation even further on TV then. When you talk about women in sports, what are we looking for? Let me get your thought first. What has been the growth process for women in sports? And in that line, maybe you narrow it down to what the challenges have been for women so far.
Okay, thank you very much for that. The growth process has actually been successful. It's not where it's supposed to be, but we are looking at women, but from a point of view, it was family members go sports. They feel like it's something for the boys, and so when a woman wants to go into sports, whether it's football, basketball, or track, anything, they feel as most times, they'll have to even what's the word? They have to be phone just they can follow their dream, and a lot of them don't have support, so they end up in barefoot. I know a couple of women, grew up playing barefoot. Talking about fit, on, we know how Paula also tried to ride, him in football, tried to ride those difficulties. So the difficulties have been a lot for women who are brave enough to go. And then the growth has just been, because right now, even where we want it to be, it's obvious that what has grown. Lots of growing up now have people to look up to, and that's the tactic that those athletes did not have. You're talking about Peki, Tris Chebet, Astra, they did not have so many people to look up to in their time. But right now, people who are aspiring to go, but have them to look. Just recently, social media, I heard your little girl said she wanted to drop running track because there to be a nurse. And this is something that right now you don't have that. Even if it depends on area from whether it's Africa, it will be a lot more difficult compared to if you're a Europe. But now there are people to look up to. For example, Mitchell Alozie, who is a footballer, a cancer researcher. She's a very skilled. They don't have to choose what path. She's doing football, but then she kept her education and even being very impactful to society. So that's the kind of situation we found that the growth is short, but we still have a very long. Because speaking of the challenge, we still have people who are very fab. They see a woman in sports talking beyond just play. Whether you're analyzing, you're a coach, you're maybe medicine, they just feel like you're not knowledgeable enough or you're not capable enough to handle any position so far as it's sport. People see it as it's something that's meant for just, the men, and they'll tell you, as funny as this sounds, still happens in they'll tell you with it's something that we've seen in the past. Yeah. So these are two things that the women's sports face, and what the challenges that we look at how in terms of payment, is how the payment structure is very clear. Yesterday I came up CAF has increased the Champions League prize money for both CAF Confederation Cup and CAF Champions League. And I was trying to look at whether this applies to just men or just women, and I think clearly it was just for the men. Like beyond, even the tennis that held in Lagos here in Nigeria, the prize money was still very different. And we are looking at a situation where you cannot tell me that it's because of the crowd they pull, because it was something that was safe for the men and the women. So this is one of the issues that we are still facing till today in wages. And then you even look at injury. You look at the medical. You cannot treat women's football, women's basketball, in women's sports in general, the same way you treat men's sports. The body of the woman is different. How she handles things different. Their menstrual cycle. There are too many things that are different biologically in a woman, and in a way, it's still treated the same. You treat an ACL the same in a woman as you treat in the men, whereas women are more susceptible to such injuries. So, I can go on and on, but all the same, the International Women's Day was because there are a lot of sports and something that wasn't way before. So I'm just happy with how it has grown, and I'm hoping that it continues to grow.
All right, you're hoping that it continues to grow. Positivity that comes with all the conversation. It took it a full stretch in that direction. You've already talked about the parity expectations. Just like the 2024 Paris Olympics had reached full gender parity for the first time. Many people are still talking about it. You've also mentioned in terms of growth. According to reports we've seen roughly 7 to 10 people now watching women's sports, with 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup reaching 2 billion people. But much has to be done even further, with a case you mentioned where women and men participated in the same kind of sports, but men received more than women. Well, I'm keenly interested because in these days, they say if you have a female analyst, many people are attracted to it compared to the men. It seems to be better in terms of broadcasting compared to a mainstream sport. Just like we're happy to have you. Let's also talk about possible solutions to the many challenges of women in sports. What do you think ought to be done to really improve, close the gap between men and women in terms of funding and parity, also in terms of more opportunities and participation from the fans regarding women's sports?
Okay, first off, I think everything begins in the mind. There just has to be a lot more sensitization for people to understand that it's not a man's world of sports. Like, you don't take it as something that is for them. So because it's common that when you talk about sport, you just think about.
Hello, Akio. Are you there? Well, quite difficult connection issues coming in there, making it difficult for us to reach Akio Annabelle, sharing her thoughts even further. Well, the guys we've heard what she's talked about, and I think the key liner in that direction before we lost connection with her was that it starts in the mind, talking about improvement of women's sports and closing the gap between men and women and parity in terms of fun and all of that. It all starts with the men. I was hoping we can have Akio, but it's been a fantastic conversation even further and moving further. We got to talk about all the talking point, but a massive inclusivity for women in sports, and how we have to attend to women must be totally different, slightly different from how we look at men in that direction. Quickly, let's hit a bit what it has to do with the world of tennis. Indian Wells, the likes of Carlos Alcaraz getting victories, escaping trouble and beating Radhanek, extending perfect season. And Novak Djokovic ends a 9-year Indian Wells wait with letters a 3-set win. When funny time I talk about Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz is going to be more like a nomenclature for us. But Novak Djokovic, it's been 9 years wait for him, and he's gotten that victory.
Exactly. Since 2017, he's not reached the stage of the Indian Wells, and it's very surprising because as a 2017 2017, he was still at his prime. So I'm just wondering why he wasn't able to reach the stage of the competition. But it's quite good for him. Since the first round of this competition, he's actually had it very difficult. His first game was against a relatively unknown opponent. He still went through 3 sets. This particular one, the same thing against an opponent below him, Valentin Vatorov. He still went through 3 sets. Now he has to meet another superstar in Jack Draper, who is the reigning champion of this particular Indian Wells. So you can be very, very concerned for Novak Djokovic now, because it's all about, as you get higher, the level of opponents you face get to be even tougher. So I'm expecting him to face T4 opponents, and maybe he might just crack, because he doesn't look like the best Novak Djokovic I've seen in recent times. So, but good to see him progressing at this particular stage of the competition.
Well, good to see Novak Djokovic progress at this particular level of the competition. Funington has spoken about it. A big concern for Djokovic, what it has to do with Indian Wells. Is it the weather of the Southern California affecting him? Who gets to know otherwise? But a big superstar having to wait for 9 years to get to this level of the competition. And Jack Draper also continues defense amid against mind-blowing Djokovic. It would be for him. Danny Medvedev or Sebastian Baez to become first man to reach 15 singles victory in 2026. Well, October David, this man, Danny Medvedev, is building that momentum even further. First man to reach 15 wins.
Well, I think it's quite good for Danny Medvedev. Just recently, we were talking about him winning a particular title twice, and it became even funny that we talked about it the other day. But I think it's quite good now. He's got some level of momentum, especially when you win a title.
That could have been where he would have lost.
Absolutely.
Remember, he didn't play in the finals.
Yeah, that's what we're saying now.
He did.
Maybe he made the final. Maybe he would have lost.
Yeah, somehow he made it to the finals, and I think that's what stood out for him. He's got some level of self-belief now after that winning that particular title. But then again, maybe we'll also look at the quality of Sebastian Baez at the moment and maybe equate it to Daniel Medvedev. I think he's not being tested yet at the Indian Wells. When we start having top 10 quality opponents face him, that's when his mettle will be tested. But I think at the moment he's doing quite well.
And Danny Medvedev doing quite well to what I was speaking about it. In fairness to women, we talk about a women's Indian Wells, and we're talking about Senikova, Austin reigning Indian Wells chairman, Dreva in 3-set comeback, and Kato Stoney and Madison Keys with comeback win to reach Indian Wells 4th round. And Elena Rybakina also challenged by Kostic, but through to the round of 16 in that direction, and Iga Swiatek also finding her range to hold Sakari's momentum in Indian Wells. And meanwhile, the D Tigers begin training in France for a World Cup qualifiers. So it will be a conversation in the coming days. We're going to talk about that even further in the world of basketball with a D Tigers. And quickly, let's go to NBA, a National Basketball Association in the United States of America. Well, Gilgeous Alexander also showing class and tying Wilt a record and hitting a winning 3 as Thunders beat Nuggets 129-126. And just like James Harden had to score 21 and Cavaliers 111-100, a win over the 76ers. The Brooklyn Nets also getting second straight win 126-115 over injury-plagued Grizzlies. And we're talking about depleted Jazz, Utah Jazz, the stunning Warriors 119-116. The Clippers also defeating the Knicks 126-118. Well, unfortunately, I'll start with this one. You take one, David take one before we get to talk about football stories. Gilgeous Alexander creating multiple records in this one, hitting winning 3 as Thunders were able to beat the Nuggets.
Oh, the man is in his prime. He's enjoying it. I remember LeBron James in his prime also doing the things similar, but this man, I think he's something else. We're going to see
something else compared to LeBron.
Yes, we're going to see him dominate for quite a long time. Okay. I think he might even challenge LeBron James at a point. Yes, some people look at LeBron James as the greatest of all time when it comes to basketball. But Gilgeous Alexander is doing something to watch out for.
It sounds like what they said about Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Well, Giannis started late. Gilgeous is still very relatively young.
We got to see what happens anyway in terms of top talent. To David, James Harden has been absolutely fantastic. We've talked about him in recent times. But let's look at the very fact that a depleted Utah Jazz got a better of the Warriors.
Well, I think it's quite sad when you have a Jazz side. One of the poor sides is not just this season, the last 3 years, getting the better of the Golden State Warriors. It speaks volume about the struggles of the Warriors this season. I wouldn't really want to say no thanks to injuries, because I feel even players who can actually step up in the absence of some superstars can still get the better of the Jazz.
Utah Jazz, we actually depleted anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not talking about the Golden State Warriors. I mean, for no reason.
Nobody cares about it.
Especially
when Utah Jazz are depleted.
For no reason, they should actually lose to the Utah Jazz. But I think it's quite good at the moment. It also means that the NBA this particular season, you can't actually be beaten by any team, irrespective of your current form. If you do not take that particular game serious, you can't be blown away. And that's just what it is at the moment. The Golden State Warriors, they have to do more.
The Golden State Warriors, they have to do more. To David pointing it out. A conversation is we're getting to the crescendo of the league when it has to do with the NBA. And big teams, if they're not careful, to slump against smaller teams. Teams that are beginning to stack the numbers and are positioning right out there. But now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, it will be football stories all around the world. Part of a conversation, a key conversation, would be the Champions League. Don't go anywhere.
Not hearing you. Right up. Since when? You don't see the signal.
During that break.
I'm sure this one now.
How about that? You never really hear it till I get talk. That's what I'm looking at.
What's that? Come back to me. Yeah?
I think it's just shake way in the corner.
Welcome back at Sports Central. My name is Bladen from Tubadavin Funington, a Silver Mayfield company. We're going nowhere. Now we're looking at stories around the world. It's football. Here we go. Sometimes when football comes, you feel that momentum and the energy that comes with it. Well, the NFF are setting March dates for Federations Cup kickoff, and I hear they put 1 million naira sanction for March no-show. In recent times, the possibilities are looking to say sometimes teams are saying because of due to certain reasons, and so the man show they're setting 1 million naira in that regard. Well, David, I don't know what you make of this, but it's basically what's happening with this one when talking about the Federations Cup kickoff taking place.
I think it's just basically what it used to be. First of all, it starts with the State FA Cup, and then the winners, or probably the two finalists, makes their way through to the National President's Federation Cup. I think the NFF also, somehow trying to make money for the federation, because I look at the very fact that some teams who are non-league teams may just be struggling to win on matches, especially in far distance. So I do not know how they will get to pay some of those huge fines that comes with it at the moment.
So if you're not ready, don't come.
That's just a signal. If
Don't
you're not
register.
ready, just stay away with that home. Don't participate.
Well, interesting thing, it starts from the state first.
Yeah, you start from
qualify.
the state.
So when you qualify from the state, you know that you should be ready.
If you qualify from the state, there should also be some money given to winners at the state level. So you could also, further facilitate them going to the national level.
And
you have to pay your way to those games.
Zonally.
Absolutely.
First.
So we're looking forward to what happens.
Well, we hear the state's preliminary will be held from March 22nd to April 26, 2026, and competitively it commences on Sunday, March 22nd across various states of the Federation. We'll yet to see which teams will represent Team Akwa Ibom as the state competition FA Cup begins. It's something to really look at. And meanwhile, Guinea are set to introduce VRA into a domestic league. Officials begin training in it. And it sounds like a good thing to talk about Guinea. The question would be, I know, maybe I'm trying to punch on the question from your mind, why not Nigeria? But Guinea is set, and this is a way to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think other countries are beginning to look at what's happening. The football scene. We're trying to get better with officiating and all of that. You have to move with VR, but it's so surprising that we don't have that in Nigeria. Even in our best stadium, that's the Gosu the Bible International Stadium, we don't have VR facilities. Quite sad. Hopefully Nigeria will look at what's happening in Guinea and maybe follow suit.
And maybe next year, you think it might take a longer time for Nigeria to have
Definitely.
Maybe next year they start
next
to
year.
think
I
about
don't think it's next year. I think the very fact that we're not actually playing night games in the MPFL is a pointer to the fact that we're not ready for it.
what has got to do with night games with VR?
I'm talking about appliances to power this, the VAR
I
machines.
put on the generator.
Generators.
Games,
How often do we have
games,
generators in MPFL match venues?
Yeah.
That's another question.
But it's not something that's impossible. So it has nothing to do with night games for me.
We
are playing afternoon
this is
games.
it now.
You put on the light systems.
I do not think the MPFL are actually ready for it, because there are also a whole lot of it attached. You can't just actually introduce the VR to the Gospel of Bible International Stadium alone. I mean, those referees have to go through some level of training and then return back
Well,
as
it's normal. The
professionals.
same way
and
everyone
all
gets
of it.
ready. They should be ready anyway.
I do not think Nigeria as a whole are ready. They're not ready.
All right, let's move on and talk about an interesting feature when it has to do with football. Then it would be Mamelodi Sundowns to face RB Leipzig in international friendly. There's something to talk about. I remember some years ago we talked about Aimba Football Club facing Inter Milan. They were walloped, but Mamelodi Sundowns are high up there, and a highly anticipated match between Sundowns and RB Leipzig will take place on Friday, 29th May 2026 at the iconic. We're talking about the Lucas Marepe Stadium in Pretoria, with kickoff scheduled for 8 p.m. Well, exciting one, good for Africa. Quickly, let's talk about the FA Cup and what gets to happen in the FA Cup as we hear West Ham are through in FA Cup after shocking Brentford on penalties. As we say, the FA Cup standings also taking place. City face Liverpool is that conversation. Let's also look at the FA Cup report that's taking place also so far. What the draws says for the FA Cup. Chelsea will take a lowly side anyway, and the numbers counting differently for some of the side. West Ham had beaten Brentford, so Leeds United also had beaten. We've talked about all of these results. So what next happens in the FA Cup? What's the fixture then? Okay, I've gotten it. The fixture, we're talking about Manchester City against Liverpool. Chelsea face Port Vale April 14th. Then Southampton against Arsenal and West Ham against Leeds United. Guys, I don't know what you make of the FA Cup draw so far for today.
Manchester City against Liverpool, Arne Slot against Pep Guardiola once again. I think that's going to be the match of the quarterfinal. Quite sad that we have to see two top teams meeting each other at this point, but it is what it is. I'm excited to see that particular fixture. At least one top team out of the way.
One top team out of the way, could be Liverpool or Manchester City. We see how that pans out for them. And then while there are talks about Mauricio Pochettino on shortlist to become Real Madrid boss next season. Well, I'm not laughing, I'm not smiling, but Mauricio Pochettino to Real Madrid, possibility of that happening. Can he be the man to take over from Arbeloa?
I think Real Madrid fans have got the answers to that because they're looking for a younger club. But how do you bring Mauricio Pochettino?
Maybe another version of
Real
the
Madrid.
club.
Perez will never allow that. Come on, Florentino Perez will never allow that. It's just what it is at this point.
Okay, the Champions League takes center stage. The way Fontaine had to put it is a Perez would allow it. Let's talk about the Champions League then. It would be Galatasaray against Liverpool. We're talking about Atlanta against Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid take on Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle United against Barcelona. It's that big games to talk about. And from the night it's here. I don't know which game stands out for you. And let's talk about the one at Rams Park, a big one. We've seen it this season already. Yeah. When Liverpool went there, it was all about the noise from the Rams Park. And another engagement, the loss in that game, another encounter between Victor van Dijk and Victor Osimhen. Well, what are we expecting?
Well, I think we're expecting something, a physical battle. You know, when you have Victor Osimhen, running at those defenders for 90 minutes, it's always going to be quite difficult. And look at Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate, they're not in the best form of their lives right now. So I really favour Victor Osimhen in this match tonight. The question is, would Galatasaray play as a team? I've watched their previous 2 games in the league. When I look at them, they're just trying to, I don't know if it's just that's how they play in Turkey. Because it's not really, I don't really
Trust
understand.
me, I've watched them, that's how they play.
They don't pass the ball, they don't play as a team. They just, maybe Sane gets to shoot outside the box and maybe it's a goal and all of that. They don't really play as a team. And when you want to win the championship, if you want to go as far as possible, you have to play as a team. Because as bad as Liverpool might be, trust me, they're going to play as a unit. So I think later tonight, Galatasaray have to choose between individual brilliance later tonight or playing as a team. They've got that team, trust me. You have Victor Osimhen, you have Elke Gundogan, you have Lucas Torreira. Those are good players who can get the job done. Yeah. But when you look at Liverpool, they've been struggling. Mohamed Salah not really been able to score goals. Look at Hugo Ekitike, he's been the main man for them alongside Dominic Szoboszlai. The left wing got Cody Gakpo, not really scoring goals. So I expect a very easy game, relatively easy game for Galatasaray later tonight.
No, easy game. We're talking about the top Premier League side.
This is all Liverpool of last season,
so we're talking about Galatasaray, not the biggest of side, but it has to do with European football. And what we hear, Alisson Becker is injured, won't be available for Liverpool, similar to Chelsea, won't be available for this game. We're talking about Atlanta take on Bayern Munich. We can also look at Atletico Madrid against Tottenham Hotspur. Let's extra Atletico Madrid, Timo Lukman being part of that team now. We've seen Atletico Madrid, little here, little there sometimes, but someone, they're racking up wins, about how I want to look at it, against Tottenham Hotspur, who is so blazing during the group stage of this competition. Away from home for Tottenham Hotspur against Atletico Madrid, the biggest test for them.
Very difficult game, I must say, for Igor Tudor because they're coming off the back of a defeat in the English Premier League. And many would say in the league phase of the Champions League, they did very well. But there's something about momentum, and most times when it drops, it is always very difficult to get it back. And I think that's where Igor Tudor and Sports are at the moment. Just a few points away from relegation and in the Premier League rather.
Well,
and then
previously they didn't matter. They were playing battling in the Premier
yeah,
League.
they
doing well in
did
the
that.
Champions League.
But I also look at the level of worries now for them. Lots of players are actually absent out due to injury worries, and they're traveling away from home to face Atletico Madrid. Yeah, we know Atletico Madrid sometimes could be terrible, but I do not think at this crucial moment they'll really want to give it all and make sure they get the battle sports.
All right, another important game to look at would be Barcelona take Newcastle versus Barcelona, first leg in the group phase of this competition. Barcelona beaten Newcastle United St James's Park, and next it's happening again. The first leg of the round of 16 of the Champions League. Newcastle are taking on Barcelona. Hansi Flick's come out to really speak about Premier League clubs based on how they qualified from the group phase of it. They said they have the best of money to spend in Europe, but he believes his team can match them toe-to-toe. And Newcastle and Barcelona, what happens?
Well, I think it's going to be a difficult game for Barcelona, like what people think that the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona are steps ahead of Premier League teams. I don't think so. I think if Barcelona and Real Madrid were in the Premier League, sometimes they would finish fifth, sometimes they'll finish fourth, when they're not performing well.
And maybe this current Real Madrid, when they're not performing
this current Barcelona, they've lost as well this season. I think more than 3 times they're about. So when you look at it, I think Barcelona are not really up there. They were defeated by Chelsea at the point where Chelsea were not at their best this season. So I think Newcastle can get the job done if Newcastle, turn up to the party. But it's going to be quite a difficult game for both sides. St James's Park, it would give the advantage to Newcastle, but I'm sure Barcelona, if they are the best. Rafinha was rested in the last game, so definitely going to start this game. Lamine Yamal scored a brace last game, so definitely he's going to start this game. So I look at him. Maybe it might just be the difference for Barcelona later tonight, because for me, Newcastle, they're not really at the best, but I just feel they've got what it takes to match Barcelona toe for toe.
All right. Well, I'm finished looking at the toe for toe incidents. Let's talk about the results then. I never can tell what happens. Galatasaray, Liverpool. What's your scoreline? Who wins it for you?
Well, my heart is saying Liverpool win it, but I want Galatasaray to win it.
Well, we don't care about what you want. Who wins it for you?
I'll go with Galatasaray.
All right. To David.
Galatasaray wins
All
it.
right. And Galatasaray wins it. Atlanta, Bayern Munich. I start with you today.
Bayern Munich thrashing Atalanta.
Well, let's see how it goes. And we're talking about unfortunately Atlanta, Bayern Munich too. Bayern Munich is win away from home.
Absolutely.
Yes, they're winning home and away. Yeah.
Atletico Madrid, Tottenham Hotspur fun.
Depends on which side turns up. Both sides have been
Atletico.
very, very funny this season. Ridiculous form for me.
So, no choice for you.
Yeah.
Between the 6 with Atletico Madrid, no draws in this one.
Yeah.
We're talking about Newcastle, Barcelona, I think, the biggest one for you.
Barcelona.
I think
Slim victory.
Barca will take this.
I just don't get fun. Analysis was favouring Newcastle United. He's giving the result in favour of Barcelona.
I said it's going to be a close one.
He's going with his feelings now.
Postcodes have sent a message, Michael Carrick after social media blab. Well, I don't know what he said. What did he say?
He came out after the Newcastle game to say Paul Scholes is very special because Manchester. Paul Scholes. Rather, he said Manchester United Michael Carrick is very special because Manchester United have been very poor. That's not the word he uses. It's a very wrong word I cannot use on TV.
All right.
Manchester have been very poor, but they have been getting the results. So he came out to say he was not trying to take a dig at Michael Carrick. I don't understand what you said that. So
why is he coming to make indirectly an indirect apology? Maybe he's been.
No, he said he reached out to Michael Carrick in particular immediately he came out.
Maybe there's a backlash that comes with it.
There was a backlash with Patrice Evra.
But
Yeah.
why not give credit to the man?
Yeah, that's what Patrice said.
United are giving too much power to these ex-players. For me, that's what I think.
A man who couldn't stay up to 1 month in his last managerial
They have
position.
to balance, guys. They have to balance. So the thing about being on this table as a journalist is you have too much power to say things. So at some point, Paul Scholes was on a similar table. They had to say something, but sometimes we have to be careful of the things we say. Thank you guys for being a part of the show today.
Pleasure.
It's funny today. Thank you. Well, for you, enjoy the games at the Tech Center stage in Champions League. Tomorrow is another day we're going to talk about it. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Vladimir Kim, and we say bye-bye. Tomorrow is another day.